ladies and gentlemen, we are about to take a trip as we are about to cross the swamp. So pack your bags and get ready to go. Hey, what's cooking? I just want to get you guys to meet my friend Margot. Say hi.
The Chino Puffs and the...
Oh yes, we've been working. That's
fine.
okay. Alright, so my poem was Crossing the Swamp by Mary Oliver. I'm going to read it first, and then we'll go through the poem. Okay, here is the endless, wet, thick cosmos, the center of everything, the nugget of dense sap, branching vines, the dark bird faintly belching bogs. Here is swamp, here is struggle, closure, pathless, seamless, peerless mud. My bones knocked together at the pale joints, trying for foothold, fingerhold, mindhold, over such slick crossings. Deep hip holes, hummocks that sink silently into the black slack earth soup. I feel not wet so much as painted and glittered with the fat grassy mires that reach the rich and succulent marrows of earth. A poor dry stick given one more chance by the whims of swamp water. A bog that still after all these years could take root, sprout, branch out, bud, make of its life a breathing palace of leaves. Okay, so that's the poem. I'm going to start with the title. So at first, it's like, it makes you think of like crossing, maybe like a challenge, because, you know, swamp's not usually like a positive thing. And if, like, later on through the poem, swamp's kind of revealed as like a symbol for life and its challenges and all that kind of stuff. So I said it's like treacherous and adventurous, because it's like what you think of, you know, like Shrek and all that kind of. And the structure of the poem is like, it has long sentences full of details, and it kind of like draws the reader in to like all of its descriptions. The commas kind of help it seem like a run-on thought, and the poem kind of goes back and forth, kind of like someone struggling or possibly alluding to like the ups and downs in life, because as I said, I think the swamp is allusion to life. What else? Oh, and the poem is kind of shaped like a zigzag, so it's like, and I think that kind of has to do, it like emphasizes like how complex and intricate like the peaks and struggles of life are. What else? The speaker of the poem is facing like a very big dilemma, or that's what I got out of it. I think it's represented by the swamp as like, and I think the speaker is portrayed as like an adventurer, and especially when it says towards the middle, it's like, it says how she's trying to find a foothold, a fingerhold. It's like, but she's still out there, you know, trying to conquer the swamp or life. The setting is like, is the swamp, which is wet, thick, and it, in the beginning, it's described very like negatively, but by the end, it's kind of, she respects it more, and you can tell that through her diction. Alright, we're going to take a more pizza break, so I'll be right back. Hello. We are going to talk about the relationship between the speaker and the swamp, if that's good. Alright, in the beginning, to the speaker, the swamp seems at first like to be she's fearful of it, she's hopeless in her situation, and she's just frustrated. However, as the poem continues, the reader becomes more familiar with the swamp and kind of respects it. Let's take a nice day to look at this poem here. The speaker feels a sense of like rebirth coming from her confrontation with her dilemma. She discovers that the swamp, which is her problem, is actually kind of teaming up with life and like giving her a new lesson. At the end of the poem, when she's like, she says, "Take not, sprout, branch out, bud." This kind of proves that the swamp means life to her, and that it nourishes her, and that helps her find the silver lining, and that nature's not always perfect, and neither is life. And I think that also when she says like pathless, seamless, it's kind of saying that like you don't really have a designated path, and it's not always going to be perfect, but you'll make it kind of idea, find the silver lining. In the beginning, when it describes like the branching vines, it proves that nature is unwilling to like cooperate, especially in the swamp, how it's untamed and uneven, which it kind of proves how hostile the environment is to the speaker who's in it. Also in the middle, when it talks about how it's pathless, seamless, peerless, the speaker tries to like gain control of the situation. She's looking to find a foothold, a finger hold, or a mind hold. And there's nothing really for her to grab. She does not like a ladder or anything like that to help her get her footing. Alright. That's pretty much it for the relationship. In the beginning, she's really scared. She doesn't really know what to expect, but by the end, she kind of respects the swamp for teaching her the lesson to find the silver lining. Alright. Alright, well, I will talk about the shift now. There's a shift in line 22. And it kind of brings the poem from its dreary outlook, which is her initial reaction to the swamp, to a more hopeful. In line 22, it says painted and glittered, and it's kind of weird because it's like it's positive instead of it's before it was negative. Instead of saying like drenched in water, it says painted in glitter. I don't know, if I got wet in a swamp, I wouldn't really describe it like that, but I guess that shows her respect that she gains towards the swamp. Also in the poem at the bottom, it has the date, which is 1978. Now, as I was saying before with nature and how it kind of plays a big role as the setting is a swamp, it's kind of interesting that 1978 is when the poem was published, I guess, because in 1978, the whole move of Earth awareness and human impact kind of started. I think that kind of just plays a big role in why the poem was centered around a swamp. Hippies. What else? Alright, so I guess to finish up with the shift, the original tone is just kind of dark and ominous and relatively negative. You can kind of see that through the diction that she uses, like endless, wet, thick, belching bogs, burrs. Not really anything positive to say. She says there's struggle, and she uses the word cosmos, which I think is kind of interesting. Because the word kind of illustrates how expansive she thinks the swamp is, it's never ending, and how intricate and how varied, I guess, the environment is. Oh no, my computer. Hold on, I can't see you. Well, I guess I can't see. Okay. What else? Alright, I'm just gonna go through the words that kind of show how negative it is before the tone shift. It says endless, wet, thick, and I think that just means how endless it is. It's exaggerated, just like the cosmos. It means out of this world. It's just so big, you can't grasp it. It's hyperbolic. It's exaggerating the situation. The belching bogs is just kind of gross in my opinion. It's not really pleasant. Kind of like the environment is eating the violators and belching them out. I don't know, it's just not really pleasant. The endless, wet, thick I already talked about. Belching bogs. It says here is struggle, and that's kind of, it references life, I guess. Like I said before, it's zigzaggy. In life, you have struggles. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad. Sometimes you learn your lessons, sometimes you don't. I think it's just reinforcing that. That's kind of it. And then after the tone shift, it just gets more positive. She develops the respect for the swamp. How it teaches her the lessons, and you can see that through, right after line 22, she says, painted and not glitter. And she describes the grassy mires as fat, which is kind of weird, but when comparing to the first half, it's kind of positive. It's kind of shows the environment's rich, I guess, instead of the beginning is all pathless and peerless and dark and muddy and there's vines everywhere. But second half says that it's fat, grassy, rich and succulent marrows. It shows that it's luscious and you have to accept nature for what it is. I think that's all I really have for that. what else can we talk about? We can talk about imagery. There's a lot of imagery. This poem we really went through and we kind of talked about that, especially a lot as a class. There's a lot of tactile imagery. There's a lot of visual imagery. There's auditory with the belching. I think that's still disgusting, but hey. With the pathless, seamless, and peerless mud, it's kind of like visual. It's visual imagery, and it just shows you how you can't really escape from her situation. There's not really a path for her to take out that'll just get her out of this swamp. She's kind of stranded for right now. The problem that the speaker's in right now seems to have no answers or solutions. It's just she has no path out. She can't tell. What other imagery is there? The whole first half really just describes the whole swamp in a negative manner. When it says the dense sap, it's really suggesting like it's kind of like a trap, like in Winnie the Pooh when he sets up the honey and the sticks and you just kind of walk right into it. It's a trap. It's kind of what I thought of when it says the dense sap. And the branching vines, it's just you get tangled in them. It's just not pleasant. And then those burrs are like those things that like little sticky balls and they get stuck on everything if you go outside. But those are, again, visual imagery of what the swamp looks like, how dangerous, how untamed and it is. Faintly belching bogs, that's auditory. That's just kind of a gross sound. I think it just shows how the environment's really, like, eating you alive. You can't really know what's happening. Oh, my mommy's calling me, so I'm going to get back to you in a minute. Sorry for the interruption, guys. All is well. Mom is fine. Back to the task at hand. Just to close up the imagery thing, the visual imagery that is used in the poem kind of conveys like how hostile the environment actually is. It's just how dangerous situation the speaker is in. Another literary device used in it is alliteration. Alliteration is a big one. I don't know why the speaker. Okay, I do. That's a lie. The speaker really emphasizes the B sound in belching. What else does she use? Let me find it now. She's B, belching bogs, branching, bird. And she also uses it in foothold, fingerhold, hip holes, hummocks, sing silently. She really uses this just to. It really brings you into the situation. You can see a belching bog. You can see what the swamp would look like through her visual imagery, and the alliteration just kind of helps like solidify what it looks like. What else? Alright, I'm going to talk kind of more on diction now. I know I already kind of addressed the first half when I talked about the shift change, but I'm going to kind of focus on the bottom, like the last couple stanzas where it goes real quick. What?
You said sedanzas, not stanzas.
Stanzas. Apologies. Okay, I talked about the fat grassy mires and how it shows you how rich the environment is, which is kind of contrasting the first half of the poem, but it's okay. Alright, by the end of the poem it says, sprout, branch out, bud, making of its life a breathing palace of leaves. And I think this it's a perfect way to end the poem. It really shows that the speaker has fully developed respect for the swamp and everything that it's taught her. It's a place of vitality, of safety for the speaker for right now, which is, again, contrasting the first half where she felt totally unsafe, totally, like, yes. And also when it says sprout, branch out, bud, it kind of shows how it shows spring, I guess, which again reaffirms like what I was saying before with how it's kind of vitality, rejuvenation. That's how she sees it by the end of the poem, and that just kind of proves that to you, I guess. Instills perseverance and, hope for a new life, because as I said, with this shift change that's in line 22, it really, the second half, after the shift change, it says, it's hopeful, instead of the first half where it was totally dreary, hopeless, she was stuck in her situation. By the second half, she She says, I can't just sit here and be stuck in a situation and feel bad and sorry for myself. I gotta do something to get out of it. And her way of doing that is just to see the silver lining. I think I addressed everything. Do one glance through, make sure I got it all. I did say how the swamp is an extended metaphor for life, and everything in the poem points back to that. The structure, having zigzags, ups, downs, life. The struggles, life. Silver lining, life. It all really, there's nothing that contradicts that. Yeah, and I think that's it. Yeah. So we talked about the shift. We're going to summarize, because that's what good teachers do. We found a shift change in line 22. The first half was dreary, second half was a lot more hopeful. We looked at her diction, and the diction used really, it all goes to imagery, alliteration. It's all about the visuals and the auditory. There's some tactile in there. It talks about the sap, but it's mainly visual and auditory. Whole thing, extended metaphor for life. She's very exaggerative, and she uses hyperboles when describing the swamp in the first half. Endless, cosmos. It's very. She wants you to really understand how detrimental the situation to the speaker is in the swamp for the first half, when she sees it as fearful and hopeless. What else? The alliteration, we have the B's, H's, S. It again reinforces all the imagery that we talked about. By the second half of the poem, after the shift change, she gains respect for the swamp, the experiences she's learned. We talked about that when the poem was dated and how that actually plays a role. Usually we don't talk about that. We just focus on what we have. But I think the fact that it's 1978 really does play a role in the role of nature in the poem. I think that's it. Alright. Well, I hope everybody has a good rest of the week. Shout out to Vince Reynolds for making this happen. And, yeah. Margo, say bye.